but Detroit Pistons.
Just another day at Woodward Sports, baby.
What is the latest with Jerami Grant, Rod? Is he going to get moved? Are the Pistons just content to sit this one out, let him be on the team, and then figure it out come draft day?
I think it's just they'll wait and see, and it depends on the offer. That they're in no rush. They don't have to do anything at this point because they still have him under contract, a reasonable contract, and then they can talk extension next year or, whatever. So it's not that it's an expiring contract, and if they don't do anything right here at the deadline, then they lose him. This is very much a make us an offer that we like, and then we'll sit and talk about it. But there's definitely nothing that says they have to do something by tomorrow.
So this is interesting because I saw earlier today, and I know the sample size isn't all that great, but since Jerami Grant has come back, Saddiq Bey has just his shooting is 32%. He's shooting from the field. He's just looks totally out of sync. For the Pistons organization, what is more important to help aid in the development of Saddiq Bey, or kind of make Jerami Grant a focal point of the offense to show people that he still can provide any contender out there an opportunity to, take that next step?
Well, I think it's both. I think they realized that Saddiq Bey kind of flourished, and Hamidou Diallo also flourished in that opportunity with Grant and Kelly Olynyk out. The problem with that is that Saddiq just doesn't have that longevity there where he can do that consistently over 82 games. And with Cade and with the injuries and everything else, you just don't have a good feel for what this team is, either with Grant, without Grant, with Cade, with all of those guys together. The sample size that all of them have played in the same game and played significant minutes is so small that it's hard to really tell anything. But I think at the same time, you want to get the max value that you can for Grant, and you just don't want to accept something else. And now looking at what these other deals have done, the Karis LeVert deal, the CJ McCollum deal, and the Sabonis deal, it's setting the market a little bit differently that hey, we may be able to get a couple of picks and a young guy instead of maybe a young guy and a pick in salary filler, which is what the reports have been that they can get from this. So I think it's just gauging the market, seeing what the best offer is, and then trying to make a decision about whether you need to pull the trigger on that now or you can wait until the offseason to do it.
Talking to man Rod Savage, a.k.a. Ron Berry, Detroit Pistons. Ron, let me ask you a question. Let me stay away from the players right now. Let me get to the coach, Dwayne Casey. Dwayne Casey right now is 64 years old. He's the second oldest coach in the NBA. How long can he do this where you're trying to piece together this team through injury, through hurt, through trying to figure the chemistry, we've talked about this, and let me start over. We've talked about the chemistry because guys have been hurt, so they haven't been able to get on the court. Like you said, the sample size is so small. But even with that, are these the right guys for the job? When do we get Kelly Olynyk back? And et cetera, et cetera. Can Dwayne Casey hold up at 64 and just trying to piece this thing together forever? Or do you use a situation where you maybe move him up in the front office and you get somebody younger? I don't know. I'm just asking you.
Yeah, I think that's the plan eventually, is that he's going to move into the front office in some kind of advisory role or something else that kind of suits him at the time. But again, you got to look at all of these assistant coaches that they lost last year. They have a whole new crop of assistant coaches, and the development team is still there. So you can see that Isaiah Stewart has taken a step forward. Saddiq Bey definitely taken a step forward. We're starting to see more of those flashes from Killian Hayes. So I think Dwayne and his staff is the right fit. It's just, can you get consistency? How much of this year do you take into account, and how much of the season do you just throw away and say, hey, they just weren't healthy at all? Whether it's Cade or Jerami or any of these guys aren't healthy, you can't really make a clear assessment of what this team is because of that, and because you were missing Kelly Olynyk for much of the season. And it's just hard to look at the record and say, oh, well, this record is Dwayne Casey's fault. We're going to throw this at his feet, or we're going to throw this at Weaver's feet. You can't really do that because you haven't been healthy enough to make a good assessment of what these guys are or are not. It's just a little flash here and a little flash there. But what does this look like stretched out over an 82-game season? You can't really make a fair comparison with what you've seen so far.
On to some positivity. You talk about Cade Cunningham. Rookie Player of the Year in the month of January. He obviously made the Rising Stars Challenge, but along with Saddiq Bey at the NBA All-Star Game that happens in another week and a half from now. How happy are you with Cade's play this year? It seems like now that he's got it going, you see on offense he can score points when he wants to. He can lead. He can he can defend, and it looks like we've got more in him than we thought we were going to get last June.
Yeah, I think there's more that's there. That the playmaking is now there, and they kind of got away from that. We're going to play Killian Hayes and Cade at the same time, and just said, hey, let's get another scorer in there. Whether it's Hamidou, and he does a lot with his cutting, or we just need another jump shooter, and we've got to figure this out. Cade has grown into that facilitator role, and they didn't want to rush him early in the year by just putting the ball in his hand right when he got healthy. So that's kind of worked out, but just his vision, his ability to take over games, that's only going to grow. His ability to take contact and get to the free throw line is going to grow too. We've seen the three-point accuracy. All of those things come just as advertised, and then just the leadership is there. There hasn't been anything that we've been told that Cade Cunningham is that we haven't seen just yet and been really impressed by it. At least I haven't. So I think it's just, what do you add to it? Do you get a Paolo Banchero? Do you get a Jabari Smith? Do you get another good piece to add in this year's draft and then in free agency, and then whatever the trade market might have? This could be a much different team when you look at the beginning of next season as we see right now.
Our friend Rod Beard joins us, Detroit News, Pistons beat. Rod, the word on the street is the Pacers turned down a trade from the Pistons. You hear all kinds of stuff at this time of the year. Tomorrow will be NBA trade deadline. Couldn't we have gotten with the Kings and swapped Killian Hayes for Tyrese Halliburton, because that's the way it should have been to begin with? Couldn't we have done something like that?
No, I think there's so much value on Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
And again, I liked Halliburton. I thought he would be the pick, but they went for kind of the build and the defensive guy and the development that Killian Hayes could turn into. It hasn't been that just yet, obviously, but Halliburton to get traded this early is just a shocker. But it's the Kings. The Kings are going Kings at some point every couple of seasons, and it's just so shocking to see that they went and pushed that many chips in the middle of the table for Sabonis, but they needed a star to go along with their kind of young roster, and they think they can do something, but I just got to see it. I got to see that they're actually going to do something with another all-star that's on that roster.
Is there a market right now for Zion Williamson?
Absolutely.
Love that chicken from Popeyes. Oh, my bad.
I mean, he's got so many other. He's got so many other New Orleans delicacies that he's been chomping on. But yeah, I think people see that he can be an all-star caliber player in the right situation. There is a market. It just may not be as robust as it will be in the offseason or maybe into next year.
Yeah, for me, as it relates to Zion Williamson, I know I crack jokes, but I think when you go to a place that you don't want to be in the first place, like, nobody took into consideration if you wanted to be there. Now, I get that it's not up to where you want to be. It's up to playing ball. You get hurt in a situation you don't already want to be in, it's a little easier to kind of delay that process and then turn into something that you no longer can control. So I hope he gets that under control, because he's a hell of a talent and a hell of a player. What are you looking forward to, Rod? Yeah, like right as we get into All-Star break, I think next week is All-Star break. As we get into All-Star break, what are you looking forward to the Pistons trying to accomplish? Maybe it's tomorrow or maybe it's next week. What are you looking for them to kind of try to accomplish?
I just want to see what trades they might be able to make and what pieces they can add. I mean, the Mitchell Robinson stuff with the Knicks has been tossed around. If they can do that, that changes the whole landscape of everything. And the timeline that we're looking at for them automatically gets pushed up. If they can add a rim protector, a rim running presence like that, an athletic guy, a big that fills a big need in their roster. If they can do something like that, I think it changes the calculus of what we're talking about their contending timeline to be. But I just need them to show a little bit more, and not these 30-point losses that they've had. These games they've come back and been strong and been there in the third and fourth quarter. I need to see more of those sorts of things where they just don't have ridiculous turnovers and they're just out of the game by mid-third quarter. I want to see a level of competitiveness, and I want to see more of Cade Cunningham and Killian Hayes with that second group. I want to see what's there. If they still believe that he can be a factor, show me that he can do that with the second group, because now they've got some other pieces that can help him be a little bit more productive.
Yeah, that seems to be the pulse up here at Woodward Sports Network. You got Easy, you got Spencer, you got Alex floating around talking about rim protector. Mitchell Robinson's name definitely came up, because you look at it, I think the Pistons have given up over 100 points in their last 12 contests. So I think that's what the pulse is here, is Mitchell Robinson would be a good addition, Maz.
Hey, Rod, just go to Brooklyn for me for a minute if you have to. What the hell happened over there? I mean, is Kyrie, did he just blow this team up? Because they were down 28-2 yesterday. 28-2.
Well, I've said before, they just want to fast forward to the playoffs. All of this other stuff is just a horse and pony show for them. They don't want to play the regular season. Get us to the playoffs where all of this stuff matters, but these dog days right before the All-Star break and right after don't matter to them. And they've got to realize if they slide down and they get in the 6, 7, 8 spot or in a play-in game, that's insane for them to have to go through the gauntlet they will have to go through. Can you see them in a first-round series with Milwaukee or Chicago or Miami? That would be insane for the amount of effort and resources that they put into improving that roster to be an 8 seed and have to go through the gauntlet. I just don't see that for them. But, I mean, this is what you get. And this is what with Kyrie and with Harden and everything that goes along with that. We said they needed to avoid injuries. And what do they get? Durant is going to be out for an extended period. So, I mean, this is the worst case scenario for them, very much like last year, is that injuries come up at a very bad time. But if they can piece this together right before the playoffs, all is kind of forgiven. If they get the 3rd, 4th seed, then whatever, they can make their way through that. But as the 8th seed, that's too many big teams that they've got to get through. The Phillies, other teams that are at the top of the East, they don't want to have to do that in the first round.
They don't want to. And bringing up Philly, Ben Simmons, what's happening with him and what's happening with James Harden? Does he want to get out? Can they get rid of him? Is it worth getting rid of him?
I don't think so. I think their better road is to look at what Harden can bring them, because he's going to be the scorer. He's going to be more consistent. Simmons hasn't played all year. So unless he's been in immaculate shape and just been in the gym every day, just what do you do with that? And he's not a scorer or a shooter. He's going to have to do all of the other stuff for them. They do need a good defender, and that's the good piece that he does bring to them. But, I mean, what condition is he in? Is he going to be a different piece for them in a playoff run than he's been in the past? That's a team that has a lot of pieces there. I don't know if he's the right. I'm not a big Ben Simmons guy. Maybe it's just me.
No, I'm not either, Rod.
I don't see where he makes you a championship caliber team or pushes you over the top, where James Harden can take over a game by himself. And we've seen that. You need multiple guys. When your other guys are off, you need multiple options. And I think that's what they traded for. That's what they thought they were going to get. And Harden's not the problem. I think it's more Kyrie that's caused them a lot of the consternation that they've had this season.
Kyrie definitely has caused them a lot of what that last word you used. He's caused them a lot of that. But at the same time, you saw with the governor mandate is possibly coming down as soon as the end of this week. They will now allow Kyrie to play in New York because they're changing the mandates on vaccinated players.
They will allow him or won't?
They're saying the mandate can come down and change it to where he can't play.
Yeah, they got rid of the mask mandate. The vaccine mandate is next. So that changed. By the time the playoffs start, there's probably going to be no vaccine mandate. So they're just trying to get to the playoffs.
But to Rod's credit, the way he's talking about, you don't want to be that 8th seed when you get to the playoffs.
The NBA don't want to see that either. Yeah, NBA, that's a nightmare for the NBA.
Hey, Rod, last thing I'll ask you, last thing before we let you go, and thanks for being so gracious with your time.
And pulling over.
You do this most days, if not every day. It's the Pistons draft lottery situation. Yeah. If they do get number 1, who do you think they'd take today?
Today, I'm going to say Jabari Smith. I'm not going to say I'm not a big Chet believer either. Yeah, Jabari Smith from Auburn, because he's a big guy, but big guys like that, you got to worry about their knees, you got to worry about their feet, and this is the same thing we saw with Bol, that he had a foot issue. That most 7-foot guys like that, unless they're taking care of their bodies from their teenage years on up, they're going to have foot problems. They're going to have knee problems. You need a sturdy young guy who can kind of come in and just be immediately impactful. Chet just feels very much like Sean Bradley to me, with a more skilled Sean Bradley, obviously. But the way that he moves, I'm just not a big believer in that right now. So I say Jabari Smith or Paolo Banchero are the first two that I have in my list.
I love Paolo Banchero. I mean, he's
you just love his name.
No, dude, watch him play. He is so smooth and so NBA ready right now. That dude could probably drop 12, 15 points in the NBA on average right now. He's so smooth. Go ahead. Yep. Rod, thanks so much, my friend.
I was going to say book it.
Yep.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
I love that guy. And I love this guy, Rod Beard.
Man,
Follow
always
him
a
on
pleasure
Twitter
having
at
Rod on there.
Det News.